Hi y'all, it's Alex.
And Bryan, and welcome to Books and Boyfriends. This is going to be the second solo review for Alex. Like we mentioned in the first video, she reads so much faster than I do. So we're going to give you all a little taste of that. And so if you have not seen our other videos, this is going to be somewhat of a spoiler for you guys that have not seen any, because this is going to be a review of the second book in a trilogy. So we did Dance Upon the Air last week, which focused on these sisters. So I'm going to give people a chance to exit out and go watch that before I spoil anything. The second book, which she is going to review for us tonight, is Heaven and Earth, and it's by Nora Roberts. We're going to focus on the sister from her point of view. So do want to mention a big shout out and thank you to everybody on Instagram. We did eclipse 100 followers, so yay, high five.
Yes.
So
if you
thank
haven't
you.
followed us, yes, thank you.
Yes.
If you haven't followed us, go follow us. Books and Boyfriends.
At Books and Boyfriends, and anybody that came here from Instagram,
thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Like, comment, subscribe, like and comment on our posts on Instagram. Definitely helps with the algorithm to get us out there. And then any suggestions, comments,
anything, you just let us know.
Yeah, on YouTube. So let us know. And if you plan on reading these books or already have read them, let us know what you thought. Yes. Let us know what you thought. And just any suggestions on the videos in general. So we'll take it away with the characters. So as we know, this is going to start from a second point of view, from my understanding, for the people that had the first book. So.
Yeah, so the second book dives into Ripley and her stories. So the first book focused on Nell. So the second book focuses on Ripley and her powers, which is Earth. Nell's was air, Ripley's was Earth. So we kind of learn a little bit more about Ripley, other than the fact that her and her brother are like the police officers there on the island, and just kind of a little bit more about her background. So her family has lived on the island forever. They go back like literally all the way to the very beginning. And her dad was also a police officer, so it's kind of just in their lineage, I guess you could say, to be a police officer. So we learn about her, and there's a mysterious guy who comes to the island, and I don't want to say he's like a witch hunter, because he's not, but he is wanting to learn more about the witches.
Just trying to get into that lineage.
So he rents out the cottage that Nell was staying in the first book. So since the first book, spoiler alert, Nell and Zach get married, and so they're living in Zach's house, which Ripley also lives in as well. And Ripley wanted to rent out this cottage that Nell was no longer staying in, and Mia, who we also talked about in the last video, she tells Ripley no because she already rented it out. And of course Ripley is like, well, what do you mean? And so come to find out, it's because of this guy. His name is Mac. So I gave the characters a 5 because I really like how we learn so much more about all the characters. So like I said, we learn more about Ripley, and I feel like that her character is so strong, and I really love that, because Nell's was very strong too. And sometimes when you're reading a book and it's primarily female dominated, sometimes the female doesn't come off as super strong, especially when it's multiple points of views. So I really liked it. It's very strong. I give the plot a 3 because I feel like, again, it takes a while, just like Dance Upon the Air. I feel like it took a while to like get
his point across.
Yes, and same thing like with the climax. Like I rated the climax a 4. Because it's a little confusing, which I know sounds weird, but it was. But I gave the book an overall 5 because it was really good, and I would read it again. So
basically with this one, because we did mention, when we mentioned in the first book that it's a trilogy, normally even any of you guys that watch trilogy movies or read books, we kind of determined that, the first book or the first movie is always going to be a lot of setting up the characters and everything. So, because I do remember the characters she gave in the first book was about a 4, this one being a 5, so I imagine they go into a little bit more detail with characters, but with the plot, like you said, being a little less.
Yeah, I just
it just
feel
kind
like
of
it
maybe
took a
didn't develop like you
while.
thought.
Right, and okay, so my best friend Jen is the one who told me about these books. So I told her when I finished this book, I was really disappointed because there was no closure. You don't.
That's 2 shout outs in a row, Jen. Better be thankful.
So I don't know. I don't know. It's good. It was good. I mean, it's a good book. It's really well written. But there was no closure. And Jen was like, well, it's the second book in a trilogy. You're not going to get closure until the third book. And so I finished the third book, which, like Bryan said, we'll review next time. But I don't know. But I think the most interesting thing for me to find out was that Mac had family on the island a long time ago at the same time that Ripley's family did. So, spoiler alert. Gosh. They're really distant cousins. So somewhere along the line, Mac's family, whatever. I don't know. You guys, you need to read the book to figure it out. Because again, it's confusing. I got confused. I had to read that part multiple times over.
It sounds like with the development, you almost want to read the second and third book back to back because the second kind of leaves you with a cliffhanger where the third one will then close it out, I'm assuming.
Correct.
Okay.
And without giving too much away, the third book was definitely, it was super good. So.
A little teaser for next time, y'all.
Yes.
So that, if you're nerd like me, this second book doesn't sound like Empire Strikes Back in the Star Wars series. Sounds like a book that just has a lot of maybe setting up, or maybe just a little bit kind of leaves you hanging to maybe drag out the story so that the third book has a lot more relevancy. And that's without me. I didn't read any of these books. That's why she's doing the solo review. So yeah, hence that.
But the thing is I think it's because it's such there's so much rich history in it that there has to be setting up to do, because you have to understand where Ripley's family came from and why she is the way she is and who this Matt character is and how her brother ties into all of this, and even how Nell is tied into it, because Nell's ex-husband abused her, and she, in the second book, we learned that he still is playing a part in this whole thing. So I totally understand where all of that, where the setting up, is. But again, it's meh, just could have cut it a little bit shorter and still would have gotten the point across. So.
Sounds like you don't want to, when you get rid of the first book and then you start listening to someone's second point of view, even not with this series, but even another one, you don't want to forget what happened in the first one through the eyes of the original person, the first sister, in this case, Nell, because you're going to get some tidbits throughout the second book. But I think even without reading this book, I think knowing what she's saying, I would read the second and third books as back to back. Just because it's kind of like watching the penultimate episode of a series. It's probably going to set up everything for the finale. So you just want to turn the page and get back to it.
It's like starting a new series, but you're so happy that Netflix and Hulu exist because you can watch them back to back to back. I do that with Grace, even though I've seen Grace so many times. But him and I were talking about that. We were watching something the other day, and I said, what would it, I can't imagine watching this in real time. You'd have to wait an entire week to see the next episode. That's pretty much how I felt with these. But again, it's so good, and there's so much rich history in the book. Obviously, it's fiction, but there's so much more that goes into it. So clearly, there has to be a lot of setting up. So I get that, but I would still give it a 3. The book is definitely an overall 5, though, without a doubt, hands down. Yeah,
no, I mean, not everything is going to be 5s across the board. and probably as many times as as much as she reads, she's going to be a little more critical. And me, I'll be critical where I probably shouldn't be, and you'll find that out in our next review. Our next combo review we're going to do shortly. So as far as the second book goes, it sounds like a good book. It just kind of maybe leaves you kind of guessing a little bit, and then the third one will help. So I think I've made that clear a couple of times. So
for sure. And I definitely like I think out of the three, I really probably like my favorite one is probably the third book. But I feel like the second book resonates more with me. Like I resonate with a lot of Ripley's characteristics. She's very hard-headed and stubborn. I am literally like that. He won't agree because he knows what will happen off camera. So, whatever. But I just was like, oh my gosh, like Ripley did this and she feels this, and I was like, wow, that's me. Like I definitely am hard-headed. So, but it ends up being such a beautiful book. So I don't want to spoil too much.
Yeah, so if you're going to read it, check it out. It's Heaven and Earth by Nora Roberts. Make sure to get the first one. Just for any of y'all that may have missed it, Dance Upon the Air. Go back, watch that video if you haven't seen that one first. If you've decided to stick it out to this video and did not watch the first one, go back, watch the first one so you have a better understanding of how everything started. And then just make sure before our third one comes out that you read the first two. So anybody that plans to read them, has read them, let us know what you thought about it, or what you think, or what you'd like to expect. And give us the reviews that you have in the comments. Compare ours. This is not, everybody reads a little differently and has a little bit different perspective. So don't, you don't have to match the review that she gives.
You might have thought that the book was a 2. I mean, we can't be friends. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, but yeah, let us know your thoughts, because we are always intrigued.
Yeah, it's always good to see other perspectives. So first book is Dance Upon the Air. This one, Heaven and Earth. And then before we come out with the review of Face the Fire, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Face the Fire will be the third book that will come out.
Third and final book where we talk about Mia. So
so be ready for that. Yeah. So guys, thanks again so much for the 100+ followers on Instagram. I think we are a couple past that now. So grateful.
Thank y'all so much.
Anybody that's watching this that doesn't know the Instagram, it's at Books and Boyfriends. Anybody that is coming over from Instagram, we really appreciate you. Whether you saw 10 seconds of the video or watched the entire thing, we're both very grateful, and we're just happy to share our experience of what we get. So
we're happy to take y'all along this journey with us. So we appreciate everything.
Yeah, along for the ride, however far you let us. So
yes, and as always, if y'all have any suggestions for us, drop them in the comments. So
yeah, give us your crime novels, your romance stories, your sci-fi. I mean, this doesn't have to be one or two genres. Like, we can float to one end of the spectrum here.
Although we do tend to like the thrillers.
Thrillers are
and
good.
The crime novels.
Well, they keep you guessing. I mean, they keep you. You kind of have to pay attention, so it keeps you engaged. And especially points of view books. This next one we're going to share. The next duo review we have for y'all is going to give us another point of perspective on point of view. Sorry, from a few different people. So
that is another thing too that I really like, is that it doesn't as so much flip flop like chapter by chapter, but like you can be in the middle of a chapter and like it'll do a short little blip it towards one of them. But you can also see that, again, like the characters are also intertwined with one another, that it's not hard to keep up. So it's like even when they do go back and forth, it's like you know who's talking, if that makes sense.
No, it's kind of like watching a movie. The dialogue's very clear. The scenes, if you play scenes out in your head, like we've talked about in past reviews, if you play them out in your head, they are very easy to kind of follow along if you have more of a visual reader from that perspective. So we do appreciate y'all watching. We'll have that one review come out soon as well. So thanks for stopping by.
Yes.
Anytime, just click that notification bell so you see when we post another video. Subscribe, and then also like and follow on the Instagram as well, so you get notifications of what we might be reading next. So you kind of have a better idea of when we'll go live with another or post another video.
Yep.
So,
on that note, we will see y'all next week.
Yes, we will. And this is Books and Boyfriends. I'm Bryan.
And I'm Alex, and it's her choice.
His obligation.
We'll see y'all next week.